Hello again. It's that guy with some thoughts. This time, some thoughts on discrimination. Wow, big topic. But before we start, let's remember our purpose in these talks. We want to go beyond the arguments and opinions of other people, and we want to find the facts and reasons behind those opinions so that we can form our own opinions and make our own arguments. Sometimes that's simply called critical thinking. Now, if we're talking about discrimination, we need to first decide what discrimination is. Discrimination, in its broadest form, is just making a selective choice. You can discriminate in favor of one kind of cookie over another, or you could discriminate against a particular flavor or kind of cookie or whatever it is. That's being discriminatory or discriminating. Now, in today's context, and the reason for this talk is discrimination about people, discriminating against a special or a particular, discriminating against a particular type of people. And when we talk about discrimination, we also need to realize that there are legal requirements involved here. There are statutes and even constitutions that forbid certain types of discrimination. You know the language. Shall not discriminate based on race, color, creed, and on and on and on and on. Okay, so that's one thing, discrimination. Another one that we hear in this context all the time is racism. Well, first of all, racism means something about race. And in our context, we're talking about human races. But when you look it up, contrary to what you may have always believed, there are no specific races of people. The scientists now think that there's just too many variables to qualify or quantify people as a particular race. I know traditionally we've thought of white, black, red, yellow, and brown races. However, we have to deal with the term racism because that is what's used so frequently today. Another term that's used is misogynist, against women, or sometimes differently put, sexism. So we have to look for these terms and understand what they're meaning in that context, and then we can go on to do our analysis or critical thinking. One of the big places for discrimination that's discussed these days is in the workplace or the government. And don't call me out on making a distinction between working and the government. But the argument is often made that the particular group should reflect our society. In other words, if you have a city council, the city council should be populated by a representation of the people in that city. In the schools, they found now there's some research that's claimed to say that students learn better if the teacher is the same ethnicity as the student. And that may be. That's something to look into more and go behind just the claim to see what you think. But my first response would be, wouldn't the student learn more, though, if they had a diversity of teachers, not just one that looked like them? Certainly, everyone is equally entitled to a position that might be available. That's the basis of our whole country and the strength of our country. And in looking at diversity and discrimination in the workplace or the government, we also need to watch out for false arguments and opinions. You'll hear a lot said about white privilege and the fact that there has been white privilege for many years means that there should be some not white privilege now. My response to that, and you decide for yourself, but that sounds to me like two wrongs. Discrimination one way, and therefore we should discriminate the opposite way now. But two wrongs to me never make a right. We're denying the value of the individual just by putting a label on their skin color. And further, I don't think the end ever justifies the means. So we shouldn't do something wrong just because we think it might make the right result. Should we go on skin color only? But if we do, doesn't that imply that there's a difference based just on skin color? And is that wise to make that distinction? Don't we need other qualities of a person to discriminate in favor of or against in making a selection other than just skin color? One of the big topics of the day is our United States Supreme Court. And our president has said, and he campaigned, it was one of his promises during his campaign, that if he had the opportunity to appoint a United States Supreme Court justice, he would appoint a black woman, an African American woman. Is that discrimination? Sure. He's discriminating against every other category you can think of that's not an African American or a black woman. I think he would have been better in a political sense even to select a whole diverse group of people and then, if he wanted to, select a black woman. Now, one of the false arguments that I told you we need to watch out for is contained on this subject, and there's an editorial by a guy named Leonard Pitts from the Miami Herald about this, and one of Mr. Pitt's arguments is that other presidents have done it. Reagan said he would appoint a woman to the Supreme Court, and he did appoint the first woman, Sandra Day O'Connor, and later then Reagan said he wanted to appoint an Italian and appointed Scalia. There's a whole different category to worry about, isn't it? Italians. Trump appointed a woman based on the fact that he wanted to appoint a woman. But that's an invalid argument that others have done it. And therefore, it's all right to do it now. Don't you remember as a kid telling your parents, other kids can do it, or other kids are going, or other kids have one of those? And what did your parents say? Well, usually the response started out with, I don't care. Just because other people did it or just because it was wrong to do it before doesn't make it right to do it now. So, diversity though, and we've agreed on this, is a good thing. It's the best approach to any problem to have the most diverse group of people bring all of their diverse opinions to a solution and come up with the solution then that meets the most aspects of the problem. So what about the Supreme Court? Well, we're talking legal, right? I mean, we're talking the highest legal opinions in the country on the most important topics of our nation. Well, 8 of our 9 Supreme Court justices either went to Harvard or Yale law schools. Only with the last justice, Amy Barrett, went to Notre Dame, do we have any diversity of law schools. Wouldn't it be better if among the group that the president was going to look for a replacement or a new appointee rather, wouldn't it be good to have other law schools represented? The idea being that A different law school may have a different approach to the law, and the students of that law school would be diverse from Harvard or Yale law graduates. Or how about geographic regions? We have a huge country, and we have a great diversity of economics, cultures, ethnicities, geography in our country, and maybe the experience of people from different areas of the country would be important on the Supreme Court. Or just plain legal experience, not just those that clerked for some Supreme Court justice or some Court of Appeals justice, but maybe some of those that slogged their way through the trenches in the trial courts and then came up to a higher position and now would be a diverse person to put on the Supreme Court. Or even other government experience or work experience, just finding people with other things to bring to the Supreme Court other than their race or their sex. Just thinking. Okay, we've gone way over time, and so we need to kind of think about that and go through the articles that you can find on the Supreme Court appointee, decide for yourself what you think is best. And then for another time, we should take up some topics like, does forced integration really work? Are there some positive examples where there's good race relations? And can we use those in other situations? Does the government and the media perpetrate the problem of race relations? And because diversity is our strength, how can we best make that work for us? Just some thoughts. And remember, de gustibus non est disputandum. There's no dispute about taste. It's